Hi guys, my name is Walter. I am with Thrust Flight. I am a flight instructor and I've been here for 6 months, and here I am with my colleague, Jerrod Roberts.
Hey guys, I'm Jerrod. I'm a Chief Flight Instructor here at Thrust Flight, and today we're here to talk to you about the top 5 ways to build flight time.
The number one way to build flight time is what everybody usually does, is CFIs. We as flight instructors do have the privilege of building our flight time by teaching the next generation of how to be pilots. Now, I don't want to underestimate the importance of this, because really these are people that are going to be in the back of airliners, right? Flying our families, right? So we want to do the best quality job of instruction that we can give. But it is nice to total up that logbook at the end of the month and see your hours accrue. A lot of CFIs get between 60 to 80 hours a month. I'd say that's pretty typical. And it takes roughly about 1 to 1.5 years to get to that 1,500 hour goal.
Yeah, it's definitely, I'd say, the best way to build flight time. It's not only are you going to get the hours that you're trying to get to your 1,500 for your ATP goal, if that is your goal. I assume it is if you're building flight time. But you're going to be practicing these things over and over and teaching these things. You'll be fresh with all these procedures. If you get your double I, you'll be fresh with instruments, autopilot, glass cockpit scans, all that kind of stuff is going to translate into the next step of your career.
The second way to build flight time is definitely get a corporate position. I will admit these jobs are very, very limited compared to other jobs that require time building for the 1,500 hour mark. Best way to get a corporate position is to either know someone in the company that you're applying for, and I have seen people get hired at 250 hours flying a Cessna Citation. How do they do it? Because their dad knew someone who knew someone, or they had a friend who was a first officer at an airline that could reference someone for a corporate job. So there are ways to get around that, 1,000 hours roughly is when corporate gigs start hiring. There are ways to get a 250-hour corporate gig, but they're far and few in between.
Yeah, those are kind of the unicorn jobs that people are looking for, and you see it on all the low time hour pilots pages and things like that. Best way, just like Walter said, is to network. You know, aviation's a tight-knit community. And if you know people and you kind of immerse yourself in the community, you hang out at airports and talk to pilots and passengers and aviation people, then you'll make those connections that you need to get that special job. Another way to build flight time, besides getting your CFI, right, is to get one of the kind of low time hour jobs, right? So, or low hour jobs. Those are jobs like pipeline patrol, banner towing, and dropping off skydivers, right? So these are not usually the most lucrative jobs, but they can help you build a lot of hours fast, especially jobs like pipeline patrol. You know, it's just a bunch of flights in a row. They're usually longer flights. The downside is that it's kind of boring. You're pretty much drawing lines in the sky. So if that appeals to you, then go for it. It's definitely a quick way to get hours, but it doesn't really, in my opinion, set you up for success at the airline level.
Yes, and that last remark that you made is a very good point, right? We're trying to get to the airline level, and that airline interview is going to be more of an example of your past training and your past employment experience. So definitely consider that when you're making a decision of how do I want to build my flight time. For me, being a CFI, this is the greatest choice because I'm teaching this stuff every day. So when I go in for an airline interview, then I'm more prepared than other applicants who've just been sitting there on autopilot and doing their pipeline aerial survey across the fields and everything like that.
Yeah, and there's, nothing against those jobs. Those are fine jobs, and plenty of people succeed with that as their background. But there's not a lot of people who are passionate about pipeline patrol or banner towing, and CFI is really a good way to build hours, and it's a really rewarding choice. All right, another way for you to build hours is buying a plane. It's not the most common way that people earn their hours, but it is, if you have the ability and the means to buy an aircraft, you will avoid rental fees, you'll avoid, working a job you may not like or it may not be for you. CFI is not for everybody, and if CFI is not for you, you really shouldn't be pursuing it. We need good CFIs, not people that don't want to be CFIs. But I've definitely had friends and people I know that have bought their own airplanes, and they just fly around and do whatever they want to do for those extra 1,000 hours or whatever it may be to earn their time.
And even if it's not flight instructing, I do believe there is some learning that can take place through those experiences, because you get to go to very cool and neat airports, and you also have the choice to challenge yourself on more complex airspace, right? You could find yourself in situations where you have to use the good aeronautical decision making, and you have to check yourself, especially on the hazardous attitudes, because you really want to get to that 1,500 hour as soon as possible.
Yeah.
But some days you're not going to be able to, right?
Right.
So it's making that good judgment call and exercising your private pilot privileges or whatever pilot privileges you have
Yeah.
in order to make those good decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll really find out what type of PIC you are when nobody's there watching you, right? It's all up to you at that point, and the decisions you make will impact every flight that you do. The downside is that you're there alone with all of your bad habits, and nobody's there again to check you. So those bad habits may increase or stay with you forever in that case.
Additional way, the number 5 way to build flight time is renting an airplane. Now, this is probably one of the most unrealistic ways to get to 1,500 hours.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna rent for the full 1,500, then you probably could buy an airplane.
Yeah.
So renting is a good practice, and I like, especially for CFIs, to go out and rent occasionally, because flying is fun and we want to enjoy our experiences. And sometimes you can be so focused on the 1,500-hour goal that you forget why you were doing this in the first place.
Yeah.
So it is an expensive hobby, yes, but I do believe that there is some joy in going out and finding these places, and just join a flying club. See who's willing to offer you a good price for an airplane, whether it's wet or dry.
Yeah.
And get that flight checkout, and you can go rent in your spare time, even as a CFI or as someone who's just looking to fly for fun.
Yeah, absolutely. It is number 5 for a reason. It's obviously not the most efficient way to do it, but renting does allow you to go fly for fun, and it is a good way to efficiently build time in between your other careers. So that was 5 good ways to build flight time to get to your 1,500 hours. Thanks for joining us today. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them below, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos.